and I look back at the day, I can say that I'm successful because I got to spend all the time that I wanted to with my family because I had planned it ahead of time. And to bring up Zig Ziglar again, he says that if we plan and prepare for success, we can expect success. So if I'm planning my day and I'm preparing how I'm going to show up for the day, I can expect to be successful for that day.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mindset Podcast, hosted by Eric Nelson and brought to you by Wild Oak Capital. Eric is a real estate investor, business owner, and performance coach. Throughout this series, Eric explores the mindset behind why certain investors are so successful and how we can learn from their achievements and failures. Eric asks the tough questions around the habits, discipline, mindset, and more required to achieve the most ambitious goals. Thank you for being here and enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Real Estate Mindset Podcast. This is your host, Eric Nelson. Today I have an awesome guest, Brandon Rabe. Thank you so much for waking up so early. We'll get into that, but thanks for being here.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Yeah, Brandon, so I always start with basically if you don't mind, tell us your story, right? Where'd you get started? We talked a little bit about your real estate, but also coaching. Just tell us, how did you get where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I think like a lot of people growing up, I didn't have any financial background, or my family didn't have any type of financial background. So I went through most of my life looking to find a great job, great benefits, going to school and all that. But there's something about having a family that puts you in a different mindset. So that's what happened with me. My wife and I had a daughter, and all of a sudden life didn't just depend on me. It revolved around my wife and my daughter. So I started to look more into ways where I can generate income, try to spend more time with them. And that's how I found real estate. Actually, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like a lot of people. And then then I fell into real estate. So I got into real estate. I started working with a coach, and through that, I found personal development. And through that personal development, I fell in love with it. And then I became a coach in personal development, wanting to work with people one-on-one, wanting to elevate people's mindset and achieve their dreams and so forth. So that's how I got into coaching. And now here I am. I'm investing out of state, and I'm a coach in personal development and real estate. So
awesome, man. Well, yeah, I think a couple of things. One, I can absolutely relate with family. In fact, I was talking with my in-laws are in town visiting right now. And so we were talking about what it means to have kids, and it's kind of fun because, they get the whole grandparent thing. But what we were saying was, when you become a parent, it's exactly what you said. It's no longer about you, right? That someone else is depending on you and you can't really let them down. And so your life changes so dramatically in that time. Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that, because I was just talking about this last night. I can completely relate. It's one of the coolest things, but it's also kind of scary, Yeah. But you do want to have, just have this desire to have more time with them. So it can kind of give you a boost as well of like, you now want to have more time, which, again, you start looking around for other income. So very cool. And then I guess let's dive into real estate first, because I think we could talk about coaching all day. So we'll cover that first. So can you,
all right.
Can you describe, where you invest, and then what it's like to invest out of state? Because I think, a lot of people are interested in that concept.
Yeah. So I'm investing out in Kansas City. So I don't know how many miles away that is from me, a couple 3,000 miles or so, maybe a little more. So at first it was a little scary. So I've never purchased a property before ever either. I didn't know what the process was like. I didn't know all the different terms that come along with buying a property. So it was all new to me, and it was scary. And it's having somebody there to just guide you and even push you to get into that uncomfortable zone. That's what really helped me. And the fact that I'm so far away too, I think there's certain advantages, right? I don't get too emotionally attached to the property. It allows me to focus on the numbers. It allows me to identify whether or not it's a good deal or not based off of my goals, whether it be the cash on cash or cash flow or whatever it is. So I can kind of separate that emotion that way just by being so far away. And that's what I like.
Yeah, I mean, I love that tip. Actually, I don't think it gets talked about enough because I have invested literally like across the street. Not joking. I own the sixplex. We actually just sold it. And there is something to be said about being far away because, sometimes it's exactly that. You get so emotional or if something breaks and you have to go fix it. It's frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
It's less so with something far away. So we have some investments out of state as well. And it's exactly like you said. It's like, it's way less emotional. It's way more about numbers. And, there's also pros and cons, of course. I mean, some people want to touch it, see it. I will say the one thing I wish I could do from a distance is smell it, which sounds weird. I don't think I've ever said that before, but if I go in a place and it smells horrendous, people aren't going to rent it. So that's like the one thing I wish. Like, I always ask my agent, I'm like, does it smell okay in there? And I think it's like the weird question that I give them.
Hey, I never thought about that. That's something
because
I need to ask my agent too.
We actually, like, my wife and I, this is a crazy story. I'll tell it really fast. We were looking for a house for ourselves and we walked in and I swear it smelled like sewer. And I was like, this place smells like sewer. And our real estate agent was like, I don't smell it. My wife didn't smell it. I was like, okay, I got to enlist someone else who can smell like me. My dad came with us. He's like, yeah, it smells like sewer. So sure enough, in the inspection, there was a break in the sewer main, like underneath the house. There had been like raw sewage. So that's like anyway, I kind of went into a really crazy tangent there, but I think, it's all part of the deal. So coming back to you though, apologies for that. Coming back to you, how did you find Kansas City? How did you find your agent? Like, give us a little bit more detail. If someone's looking to invest, what are some tips you can give?
Sure. So, I mean, like I mentioned, right, I was working with somebody, my mentor, who kind of guided me through the whole process. But as far as the action steps I had to take, it's building a team. So I've interviewed a handful of agents to get to that one agent that I closed with, right? And it's asking them questions. I like to implement trust but verify. So while I'm interviewing them, I'm seeing what their answers are to my questions, seeing if they're committed to the certain things that they're committed to and following through on those things. As an investor, we like to put out a bunch of offers, and it's really easy for agents to get burnt out. So one of the questions I asked them up front is if they are aware that we're going to be putting out 30 offers and might not be locking up one in that 30 offers, are you okay with that? And if they say they are, that's cool. I'll make a note of it. And then as we go through the whole process, if we're at like offer 10 or 11 and they're like, you know what, Brandon, I don't think this is going to work out for us, I'll bring it up and be like, hey, I thought you said you were cool with putting out 30 offers. What happened? We're only at 10. We're only at 11. We still got 20 more to go. So yeah, trust but verify, seeing if they're going to follow through it on their word. And that can go with any of your team members, property manager, contractor. I guess you could do that with a banker too. But I like to do phone calls and possibly video calls if they're okay with that too, just to kind of get that face-to-face since I am so far away. It adds that extra level of, I guess, confidence. And just sticking to the process. I mean, the way that the market is right now, there's a lot of competition. So you have to be consistent with what you're doing each day, with the analyzing, with the offering, and just trusting the process that it'll only be a matter of time. I heard recently that, the deal of a lifetime comes around every 6 months, so long as you're consistent with the process. Right. So, just don't get so fixated on, oh man, I missed out on this deal and the numbers look so good and so forth. Don't get caught up on that. Because again, you're bringing in emotion. When emotion goes up, intelligence goes down, right? So just be consistent with it. And it's just a matter of time before you lock something up.
Oh man, there's a lot in there that you said. It was so good. I think, just like you said, your kind of team, right? So investing out of state requires a good agent, a good, lender of some kind, and a good property manager. And then you could potentially add to that list. But I love the tip you gave about interviews. I mean, really, really kind of vet the person. It'd be nice to have some kind of reference of some sort. Yeah, and I think some agents get mad. Like I'll give a shout out to, his name's Casey Klingensmith. He's in Lubbock, Texas, and he's made like, oh my gosh, 50 offers or more. And every time it doesn't work, it's like, yeah, on to the next one. It's like, he's like me, he's an investor as well, but he knows like that's part of the process, right? So I think it's
Yeah.
important that you are very clear. I mean, that was the other tip, is be honest, be upfront and say, hey, I'm gonna be offering probably lower than other people. Some of these will hit, some won't. It's part of the deal. And so, yeah, I love those tips you gave. So let's kind of shift
Yeah.
gears. I mean, I think the thing that sticks out, of course, I mean, we're going to talk about coaching, but the thing that sticks out is your mentor. So I've had a couple of coaching clients myself, and one of them bought his first rental property, and to walk that person through the process was incredible for me as a coach. But as a student, I mean, that's a really cool thing as well, is to say, okay, I can actually work with this person who's done it before, and it kind of speeds it up. So before we get into your kind of coaching, how did that go with your mentor? How did you find him? Are you glad you did it?
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad I did it. And the way I found my mentor was going to a meetup when we had in-person meetups.
Yeah.
And but the funny thing is that I actually knew of my mentor from my W-2 because we both worked at the same company. I just didn't realize he was investing in real estate until after he was financially free and retired and, gone from the company. So I connected with him after he had retired because he was holding his own meetup. And that's how I found him. He did a presentation on out-of-state investing versus in-state, because in here in Hawaii, it's hard to invest for cash flow. It's more of a fix and flip kind of a game here. But he did a presentation. I was hooked, and I just scheduled that one-on-one meeting with him, and that's kind of how we built that relationship, and how I got started by working with him.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's actually kind of how I found my current mentor and coach as well, was just through a meetup. I talk about the power of those, and it seems kind of silly. I think people think, well, no, they're just local, just find people around the corner, which is true. But there's a lot of really high quality, mentors and coaches that probably will come to some meetups. So a lot of times it's worth your time, in my opinion. I mean, if nothing else, you're going to learn something, meet some people. I mean, I always like kind of say it's definitely worth going to. And if there's not one, put one on, it's
Exactly.
it's not a huge deal to make one happen. So very cool. So let's get into here. So can you explain to me how you got into coaching? And then I'll ask some follow-up questions, but what kind of pushed you into that realm?
So while I was working with my mentor, my real estate mentor, I realized that a lot of real estate has to do with personal development, which I had probably zero experience with. I hadn't read a book since high school besides, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which was only a few months prior to coaching. And joining a book club is, I guess, the baby step I took towards personal development. So we were reading, Think and Grow Rich, High Performance Habits, like little mindset books. And that kind of led me to like, oh, what is this thing? I think it was Zig Ziglar that said, your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development. And it's, to me, that struck a chord with me, because it's like, man, well, if my personal level of personal development is down here, like a 2, and I want to reach a level of success of 8, 9, or 10, I got a lot of work to do. So through kind of researching personal development online, I came across, you got those big names, right? Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins, Brendon Burchard. I kind of, I guess, related a lot to Brendon Burchard, and kind of went down his theology, I guess, if you want to call it that, of personal development, and ended up working with a high performance coach. And that coach kind of walked me through and led me through the different ways of facing life's challenges and overcoming setbacks, and just trying to figure out how to getting out of the stuck places in life, right? And just by going through that experience, I wanted to be able to be that person for somebody else. how can I inspire somebody? How can I motivate somebody? How can I improve somebody's life? So I saw that they had like certifications and so forth. So I went through that, became certified, and now I'm able to help people. I'm able to work with people one-on-one and really transform their lives and improve their lives, or push them to do things that they thought they never would have done otherwise. Right. So it's a really, really awesome feeling to be that for somebody.
Oh yeah, that's so cool. I mean, I love coaching. I've talked about it so much on the show. And coming back to what you said about mindset is, you're right. I mean, I think in any world, mindset is so valuable and important. A lot of times in real estate development or in real estate investing, it can take some time to get there, and it can be really frustrating road. I mean, there's a lot to learn. So I don't want to say any more or less than the other industry, but it definitely is what you said. I think mindset plays a huge role. Your development plays a role. That's really the reason I started the podcast, was to, kind of get the word out, is like, to change your life, you need to start by changing your mind. And so I just completely agree with everything you said. And so can you talk a little bit more? I mean, I don't know if you want to get too deep into this, but what does the training look like? I mean, what does it look like to become certified? I've always been interested to know, like, was it really challenging? I mean, did you enjoy the process? Can you kind of explain what it's like to get that certification?
Yeah, sure. So, and I can only speak on the certification that I went through. I'm sure, other programs is different, but for this one, it was supposed to be live. But with the world events and everything, it became online. But it was a 5-day process, 5-day period, and 6 hours each day. And it was just training and then role playing, training, role playing, training, role playing. So I like the process because it allowed me to implement what we were learning right after we were taught it. So we're taught on a certain subject and how to coach it. And then right after that, it's like a 5-minute break. And then on Zoom, we jump into breakout rooms of 2 or 3. And then we just go, right? We role play, coach and the client. And then you got an observer to give feedback, and you do the whole session. And then you debrief afterward, what worked, what didn't work, what you could have done. Here's where this person had a breakthrough, or here's where you could have dug in a little deeper. I think it was really good. It was really good training, and I enjoyed that process. Just because for me, the way I learn is, I want to be able to, if I can see somebody do it, then I know I can do it.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that role playing stuff, that really helped me. But that's how that training went for that program.
Oh, very cool. It's interesting. Like, the one thing that I sort of took out at the end there was, like, to see someone do it, you can do it. And I think that's another thing that's so key about, finding the right mentor, right coach. Like, let's say I think personal development, of course, is massively important, but let's say someone did want to invest in real estate. Maybe you could be a good connection with them because you've done it, and you could say, here's how it worked for me. Here's what I wouldn't do. Sometimes it's the mistakes that are almost as valuable as the tricks,
Yeah. And that's what I tell people to look for in a mentor, is look for somebody who's promoting a skill and not a lifestyle. You want somebody who's already been there where you want to be. I want to be financially free. So my mentor was already financially free. It made sense. Right.
Awesome.
The guys I work with, they just want to get their portfolio started, or they just want to get from 1 to 2. So that's what I do. I can help them get from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or so forth. And yeah, just look for somebody who has what you have already. Yeah.
Yeah. Or look for someone who has what you want to have, right? Or has.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No, I just want to clarify.
Yeah, that's you're right.
They already have what you have. Like, maybe find someone else.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So the second part of the show is really mindset based. And so what I'll do is just ask some questions. No right answer, whatever works for you, right? And then we can kind of dive into those a little bit more. So
cool.
The first question is, do you have a morning routine?
Yes, I do. So
it's 5 o'clock there now. So we can skip today because you got up really early, or most days.
So yeah, most days. So I'll do journaling. I use a high performance planner. that is part of the High Performance Institute's Brendan Burchard's kind of brand. But I do that, and it asks me a bunch of questions as far as shifting and framing my mindset for the day. It also has time blocking in there and goal setting in there, like what goals or tasks that I want to work on for the day. So I start with that. After that, I do a little bit of reading, whether it's the book that I'm reading for the book club that I'm a part of or the Bible. I'll do a bit of reading. Then after that, I'll do some stretching. I should mention that I'm still at my W-2, which is very physical and very labor intensive. So stretching is really important for me. So I'll do some stretching. And then after that, that's about an hour or so. My kids start to wake up, and then my family and I, we go walk around the block for half an hour or so.
Oh, that's so cool. That's one thing about Hawaii that's pretty sweet is it's really fall here. Like, I mean, I'm looking out, all the leaves are turned and it's pretty chilly. And in the winter, it can be a challenge to get the kids out because it takes like 45 minutes just to get them dressed. So I'm a little bit jealous of that for sure.
Oh man,
that's cool, but it's so important.
No, but you know what? I've never seen snow, so I don't know what that looks like. I've never experienced it. So
well, come visit, man. We'll talk offline. You can come hang out in the winter.
Right
I'll tell you this:
on.
it's cold. No, I mean, I love
what is cold? Because to me, like 65 degrees is pretty cold for me. So
yeah, I live in the mountains, so it dips pretty chilly. But there's pros and cons, right? I love to ski, so it comes with the territory.
Cool.
Very cool. Well, the next, I guess before we move on, I mean, I think the reason I asked the morning question is because I do think it's so valuable to get your mind right before the day begins. And again, we can relate with kids. Like, it's pretty chaotic once they're up. Whether they're going to daycare or school or not, it's still pretty chaotic. I mean, I think, if I have to get them going, it's pretty speedy. It's kind of like got to get things together. If it's a home day, maybe not so much, but it's still like, I really want to be focused on them. Right. So I love that you get up before them, spend time. I think it's pretty valuable. Whatever works for, there's no right answer, but I think for me, and it sounds like for you, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Because once the kids wake up, I mean,
all bets are off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, cool. And we kind of touched on this a little bit, but what books are you reading, or what books can you recommend?
Ooh, okay. So I would say first one that comes to mind is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. That book, I mean, I love the military stories in the book, and that's just really fascinating to me. But the principles that you learn in that book, just taking responsibility of all your actions. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders. There's a whole bunch of different things in that book that I really, really love, and I love to apply and can see the impacts. If people were to just apply what's in that book, I think business would get along much more smoother, relationships would just everything. So first one that comes to mind is Extreme Ownership.
I love it. Great tip. Yeah, I'll put that on my list. That's the challenge with asking this question, is then I get to have a very long list. All good. Okay. And then, this is funny to ask this question because I already know the answer, but I'll still ask anyway. Do you have a coach or a mentor, and is it worth the investment?
Yes, I do. And in fact, I have multiple coaches, right? And before working with that first coach, I would have never paid for any type of coaching at all outside of, college, I guess, and any type of training, unless it dealt with my job. I would have not paid for it. But I can say that, absolutely 100% worth working with a coach or a mentor, somebody that can hold you accountable, or somebody that can just walk side by side with you through the different challenges that you're facing. Yeah, very worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's amazing. I mean, so I don't think I've ever talked about this. I've had a handful of guests talk about this, but they say like Michael Jordan, right? So obviously, especially at his time, he was the best in the world. He had multiple coaches. Even if you're really, really high performing, you can always get better. And I think a coach for me, like, really highlights that stuff. And the other thing I get from coaching is a lot of times it's stuff I already know, but he helps me like dig it out. So like, well, how can you look at it a different way? Like that question comes up a lot, and you kind of just sit in it. And then, if you like take the time to journal about it later or kind of reflect, it kind of brings up some stuff that you kind of probably already knew, but just either didn't want to admit or didn't want to implement, so
Right. Yeah, exactly.
so there's a lot of pros to it, I think, but it is an investment.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure and find the right one.
Yeah. Yeah. But I love it because they change your perspective on certain things. And that's really all you need sometimes is a different perspective on your situation, and you can
Oh
get out
yeah.
of it.
So good.
Yeah. And then speaking of Michael Jordan, if I could recommend one other book, Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's training coach, and he wrote a book called Winning. And that's a really awesome book on just
Oh,
how to
sweet.
be a winner. Right. But no, it's he talks about Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and just what it takes to really push through and be the best at what you want to be. So yeah.
Oh, that's a great recommendation. I got two now. This is started piling up.
Oh man.
So the next question is what's something that you've done that you would not repeat that we could learn from you?
Ooh, something I've done that I would not repeat. I think that's a great question.
Yeah, it's
You sure
basically
this is
kind of
not a
like
coaching call? No.
yeah, it is. Yeah. I'll send you a bill. No, just kidding.
Okay, so since on the subject of real estate, I went through this situation with a general contractor, which I'm sure maybe a lot of people can relate, right? Finding that good general contractor is a pain point to, you know, be trustworthy and do the job and everything. And especially with me being so far away from my properties, even more so, I need somebody that's going to have integrity and keep their word. So with my first contractor that I ever worked with, I was not, how do you say, on top of things. I was giving too much trust over to him. I wasn't verifying the work that he was doing. And he basically he demoed the whole property, and that was pretty much it. Oh, actually, no, he did do work. He did do work, but it was all incorrect.
Oh, that's even worse. Yeah.
So, and that was just because of my, I wasn't following up on him. I was believing everything he was saying. When he said, "Oh, I did this, this, and this. I need the next payment." And oh, perfect, cool, okay. What's the next payment? Where do I send it? And I would send it over. And just like how you're talking about with coaching, right? It's all of these things we know. You don't send money to somebody for not doing work, or you want to make sure work is verified before you send a draw. Like, I know all those things, but for whatever reason, I didn't do it. I ended up just paying him, and I paid him a good amount of money for basically no work, and so if I had to go back and do something or not do what I did in the past, it would be that I would implement, having another team member go by and check out the property before me sending a draw, or having a third party verify the work that was done. But I'm grateful for that experience, because now I can transition that into my following rehabs, which is what I did. I took a lot better notes. I asked better questions. I paid people to go in and check to make sure that, the plumbing was done right, or the flooring was set in, or whatever it is, right? I verified the work before I sent that next payment. So as sucky as that was to go through, I'm glad I went through it.
Well, a couple of things. I mean, I think first of all, it's a great tip. So absolutely, again, you said trust but verify. I love that you said you paid people, because I think, that's important too, is if you have a real estate agent or maybe property manager or someone that you can get over there to verify. I mean, their time is valuable. So some people want to get that for free. It's like, no, I think it's important that you say, I'm happy to pay you to do this. Can you go verify? Right. So
Yeah.
great tip. And then, at the end, I love your mindset around the mistake. It's basically, it's not really a mistake. It's a learning experience. So you can take it from there. And you said, I'm grateful for it. I mean, I just love that thinking, because some people would say, oh, well, contractor, ripped me off. Real estate investing sucks. That is probably a fairly common thought, right? But in your mind, you're like, you know what? I messed up. I can get better, and I can learn from it. And it's almost like a positive thing, the way that you talk about it. So I just love that mindset.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you cannot fail if you choose to learn and grow. So, if if you can choose to learn and grow, then there's really nothing to fear since you can't fail. Right.
Yeah,
So
so good.
that's how I like to view things.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, that was awesome. Thanks for being vulnerable and sharing your being honest about it, because we all make mistakes, right? We all do stuff. Even like you said, you probably knew in the back of your mind you needed to verify, but you trusted him so much. So yeah, I love that tip.
Yeah.
So the next one, again, this is kind of funny to ask this after we've covered so many, but what is a mindset tip that you can give to our listeners?
Mindset tip. Let's see. This is hard for me because there's so many that are running through my mind and I can't just choose one.
Yeah, I hear you.
Right.
we can take the last one you just said, right? It's like learn from your mistake and view it as something positive or something that, is a learning experience rather than a mistake. And I also love what you said, again, coming back in, is like, you can't fail. So, maybe we can take that one. If you want to elaborate on that, what you mean when you say you can't fail.
Yeah, well, so, like we had talked about earlier, shifting your perspective, how can you see your situation as an opportunity to learn and grow from? And I guess this could lead into another thing that I thought of, is that life happens for us and not to us. So that situation with the GC and me losing money and that whole situation, that happened for me. That didn't happen to me. So when I shifted my mind frame around that and trying to figure out why trying to figure out why that happened for me and how that happened for me, it's like, yeah, it's because I can now apply this into GC number 2. And sure enough, a situation came up with that second GC where he was like, okay, Brandon, we did the electrical, we did the paint, we put in ceilings and so forth. We even grounded your whole house. We're ready for the next payment. The old version of me would have been like, perfect. Yeah, I see the pictures. It looks great. Here's the next payment. But because of the whole experience that I went through, it's like, okay, let me pay somebody, my property manager, let him go in, verify, are the outlets grounded? Are they really grounded, or did they just put on the 3-prong faceplate, type of thing? How is the quality, the workmanship of the paint? Is there overspray? Did they tape everything up well? Right? Do the ceiling fans all work? Are they balanced? Do they make those weird the woo 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 sound, whatever it is? Things that I wouldn't know from a picture. So it's, yeah, just going back to things in life happen for us and not to us. So that whole predicament that I went through with that GC, that happened for me. Right?
Oh, that is
changing my perspective.
That's amazing, man. Just to say the one little word difference, right? For me and not to me. That's powerful. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
The next one to me is always the most challenging. So what is your definition of success?
That's a great question. So for me, it's kind of why I'm doing this and investing in real estate and even coaching, right? I want to have more time with my family. My kids are still young. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. So growing up, my parents were always working. I didn't get to spend as much time as I wanted with them. And again, right, applying that life happens for me, not to me. My childhood happened for me. And it taught me that, I want to spend time with my family. I want to be able to be there for the recitals or be there for the games and so forth. So to me, success is being able to be there for my family's most important moments. So I may not have to be financially independent, which again, that would be great. So long as I'm there, I can make it to the games and make it for those important moments. To me, that's being successful. And also just being able to impact other people's lives through coaching. Right?
Oh, so good. Yeah, I think I can fully relate. My main driver is we talked about this, is just time with my family, so yeah, I really love that answer. So the part 2 of that is, if someone asks you, why are you successful and others may not be so much, what is your response?
It's so with the time blocking that I do every morning, I'm able to plan out my day, and that puts me in control of my time. and how I spend it. So what I'll do in my time blocking is I'll block out those times to spend with family, to play with the kids. And then I'll block out time to work with clients. Then I'll block out time to do personal development, and I'll block out time for real estate. Right. So at the end of the day, when I do my evening journal and I look back at the day, I can say that I'm successful because I got to spend all the time that I wanted to with my family because I had planned it ahead of time. And to bring up Zig Ziglar again, he says that if we plan and prepare for success, we can expect success. So if I'm planning my day and I'm preparing how I'm going to show up for the day, I can expect to be successful for that day. And sure enough, when I do follow through on those things, at the end of the day, I feel great, right? I got to spend time with my kids. I got to read a little bit of the Bible. I got to take care of the tasks that I needed to take care of for the day. And yeah, each day is a win, right?
Oh man, so good. I've actually kind of had major breakthroughs when it comes to time blocking, because sometimes things come up, right? Like people will call and there's semi-emergency or something, at least in my work. And so I was always challenged to do this time blocking. And if I didn't complete it or didn't do all those things I said I was going to do, I was like frustrated. And, working with a coach, he's like, why are you frustrated? It's okay if you don't do it. But if you have the plan, maybe it gets pushed back or changed times or whatever, but it's exactly like you said. So I've had a huge breakthroughs when it comes to time blocking, just because I was so resistant, thinking it wouldn't work. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. That's okay. But basically, to have the plan in place, the things you need to do, what are the most important tasks you have to get done, and then of course, block out time for your family. So very, very good tip. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, it just allows you a path for you to follow throughout the day, because things in life happen and we can't always 100% stick to it, but at least you have a path of how you want to live out that day. So yeah, that's awesome.
Well, Brandon, this has been a great show. I really appreciate your time. I mean, I think obviously we align on a lot of thinking. How can people get a hold of you? How can people get in touch? Can you talk about Breaking Rhythm a little bit maybe? And then, how can people contact you?
Sure. Awesome. So I'm pretty much active on Instagram and Facebook. So Facebook, you can find me through my name, Brandon Rabe. And on Instagram, my Instagram handle is Breaking Rhythm, which is my coaching company's name. One word, Breaking Rhythm. And with my coaching company, it's based on high performance coaching by Brendon Burchard. And we work through the 5 different habits of high performance. So working through clarity, energy, courage, productivity, and influence, and just increasing your levels in those areas of life. So I also have a website, breakingrhythm.com. You can check that out. And if you mentioned Eric's podcast here, I'll give you guys a nice little gift and also a little discount. So go check that out.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good. Everybody go check out his website. Brandon, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, Eric. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Real Estate Mindset Podcast. If you've enjoyed the content today, please follow this show wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to head over to wildoakcapital.com for more information or to connect with Eric directly. Please take a moment to leave a review or tell a friend about what you've listened to today. We hope you'll tune in again soon.